I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for the Life and the UK Test, part 92, Richard Arkwright, that is on the page 36, while doing morning stretching. As you participate in the morning stretching, that is at your desk. So we will get another date of birth and death here. Let's recapitulate. What do we have? So we are having the reign dates of Henry VIII. These are 21st April 59 and 28th January 1547. We're having the death year of Elizabeth I, 1603, but I'm pretty sure we will get the dates better in the appendix. But you're reading a book from the start. Okay, sometimes you could also say you're looking in the appendix while you're going through the book. And we're having William Shakespeare. That is 1564-1616. And we're having Sir Isaac Newton. That is 1643-1727. And I think it was someone else, and that was Robert Burns. Robert Burns does not have a third title. He's known as the Bard in Scotland. Robert Burns, and that was 1796. 1796. And now we're having Richard Arkwright. And made 1732-1792. It's a pretty easy year, actually. 3292. Born in 1732, Arkwright originally trained and worked as a barber. He was able to dye hair, make wigs. When wigs became less popular, now we're having a little conclusion. I was thinking about, there were two main political parties during the time. It was still directly after the Glorious Revolution, when the advisors and ministers of the king making sure that he got the majority, or tried to get the majority of the votes in the parliament. It was not under George I, it was earlier, it was already here. After the Glorious Revolution with William and Mary. So there were two main parties, the Tories and the Whigs. And these Whigs are spelled with an H. So the political... They are Whigs. W-H-E-N-G-S. They are spelled with an H. I thought that had something to do with that. But these are the Whigs and Tories, and the political party is spelled with an H. Now I don't know what it means. Technically it could be just a different spelling. But here we're having now Whigs is written without an H. Whigs. So fake hair, basically. And worked as a barber. He was able to dye hair and make wigs. So he could color hair and make fake hair. When wigs became less popular, so people did no longer do fake hair, he started to work in textiles. That means the people were wearing clothes. They did that earlier also. He improved the original carding machine. So there's a carding machine. We're having an explanation. Let's keep... I'm lacking up with words since quite some time. We are having like such as comfortable staying interested. But that's not the proper word into that subject. We're having like standing a bit of a shoulder wide apart, and we're doing forward shoulder circles. We're going back of the shoulders, up and front and down. We're doing morning stretching, and if you participate in the morning stretching, that's the honest. We're going back and up and in front and down. And we're going back, up, in front, and down. And one last time, back, up, and front, and down. And now backward shoulder circle. So we go in front, up, back, and down. And last round, we're going in front, up, back, and down. And now we're breathing in and lifting the shoulders in. Now then we're letting them fall down. And breathe in and lift the shoulders up. And now let them fall down. And breathe in and lift the shoulders up. And out. And last time, breathe in and lift the shoulders up. And out. Breathe in and lift the arms up. The plugger, and we're just pretending to reaching to an apple which is hanging high on a branch, to take that apple, to turn it, and to rip it off a branch because it is ripe. And we wanted to harvest the apple tree. And a few more times. Just keep on breathing. And the last 2 times. And now back to Richard Arkwright, who was born in 1732, died in 1792, and he was a barber and he was doing colored hair, and he dyed wigs, and he dyed wigs, which is colored wigs. He could make wigs, and that was not to the carving process. He was able to dye hair and make wigs. When wigs became less popular, he started to work in textiles. He improved the original carding machine. So there's a carding machine. Let's just understand it. There's a carding machine. Carding is the process of preparing fibers for spinning into yarn and fabric. We can't really imagine anything through it of preparing fibers. So fibers are these thin things out of which cloth is made. There are thousands of them together. For spinning into yarn and fabric. Yarn is when something bigger, that are a few hundred of these fibers together. For spinning into yarn and fabric. Fabric is when some of these yarns together or some of these fibers together into a piece of cloth, I think. And something of that is cloth, something of that is textiles, and that whole makes clothing. So carding is the process of preparing fibers. They are prepared for the process. So we're having here the Richard Arkwright carding machine. Preparing fibers for spinning into yarn and fabric. So we're having here a picture or an illustration of a carding machine. And we can see here there are little fibers. And they are going somewhere in here, and there's happening something in there. And that is making these fibers. Carding is the process of preparing fibers for spinning into yarn and fabric. I have an idea. I don't go any more into how Arkwright made the textile industry more efficient. Well, he improved the process of preparing fibers for spinning into yarn. That is not. Now imagine you would try to improve spinning fibers into cloth and into fabric. You would have no idea. So what do we know about the Arkwright machine? But I have an idea. So spinning yarn, what I talked about here, what I think they did. There were many cottage industries where people worked from home to produce goods such as cloth and lace. I think they were spinning. So they were having a spindle machine. It looks like that. They're having on one part, they're having a wool or something like that. I don't know what it is. And we're taking always a little bit of this wool. But it's not directly the wool from the sheep, but it's pretty close to that. It looks like, I don't know what it's named. The thing you can get I don't know what it's named. So they are taking that, and they're taking always a few of these fibers. And now I think they are turning them, and they would normally, like, hairs just fall apart. But they are very much smaller than fibers, and they bind together. And now they are taking them, they're having a spindle, they are having the foot, and they are making a real turn. And that wheel turns, and they're taking a little bit of these fibers, which looks like sugar made to these fibers, which you can eat. You can't eat wool, but you can eat what you can buy on. It's not a circus, it's something else. But it's probably also sells in the circus. And so we're taking these fibers, these are millions of fibers, and they are making them then together to a thin yarn. And that yarn rolls over a spindle or something like that, but the ready yarn is then coming actually on the spindle, not on the wheel. So it's not that every time the spindle makes a turn you have a meter of yarn. But that's some of it. They're taking millions of fibers together, and they are twisting them basically together and making them to one yarn. And if you look very closely at your cloth, you can see that these are yarns, and then if you make them open, which you should not do, you should not destroy your clothes, but if you look very closely, you might be able to see that all of these yarns are out of very, very small fibers. So by normal spinning, by the auto spinning, you take these fibers and you twist them together until they are all intertwined. And if you take hundreds of them, that gives a yarn. And through that spindle, they are, I don't know exactly where the difference is between the wheel and the spindle, but they're then coming together to a yarn. Now, and if you take that process, I said it's not, I'm pretty sure you don't get a meter every time that spindle turns, because it turns pretty fast. You get only a few centimeters, but I don't know where now what is turning to what, do what. You get only a little bit. And you need to do, I don't know, but I guess it takes hours or a whole day to make 100 meters of yarn. You don't get that much out of 100 meters of yarn. But I don't know, maybe the yarn is thicker. So I don't know. Right? Now, if you look at that, what is happening here? There are, let's say, 50 of these yarns. And I can imagine that that thing is turning pretty fast. So and that seems to be pretty fast. So it seems like that this machine can do 50s of these yarns in a minute or something. So instead of working in a cottage farm for one day, and we're having 100 meters of yarn to then make cloth out of it, we're having, I don't know, but let's say every hour 100 meters or something. So something like which seems to be the carding is the process of preparing fibers for spinning into yarn. The carding seems to happen in there. I mean, he's standing there next to that thing, so the important thing about the carding seems to happen here. The carding, maybe it's like turning cards on. I don't know it. They don't explain it. We're doing morning stretching. We will come back. We are doing mostly morning stretching. We're having 4 minutes. The arms to the outside. We're going in and out. We're shifting over to one side. And breathe in into the middle and out over to the other side. And breathe in into the middle and out over to the other side. And again in into the middle and out over to the other side. Breathe in into the middle and out. We go onto the knees. Breathe in and out and bring one shoulder in. And breathe in again back and out the other shoulder. And breathe in the middle and out the other shoulder again in front. And breathe in and out the next shoulder. Breathe in into the middle and out and we're going down. Breathe in and out over to the leg. Breathe in and out over to the other leg. Breathe in. Out back into the middle. Breathe in. And out, we're coming slowly up with a long back and back in at the top, and backwards. Shoulder. And now for the garden pose. It's just a very good pose. You don't need to be very good warmed up, and it works a lot. We are having the toes pointing to the outside, and we're having an overlap space between the heels, and we're breathing in and lifting the arms up. And we're breathing out, we're going down, and placing the elbows against the insides of the knees. We're breathing in, and we're straightening out the back. And out, we're coming with the back up. And breathing in. And out, back into the garden pose. Breathe in and straighten up the back. And out, come with the back again up. And breathe again in. And out, the last time, garden pose. And breathing in. Out, we're coming slowly up, a straight line. And we're having one last exercise for seahorse pose. We're having 1 minute left. Having a standing leg and placing the heel of the mobile leg on top of the knee of a standing leg. We're breathing in. And out, we're sinking down. So the Industrial Revolution. Let's just read Richard Arkwright again. Born in 1732, lived until 1792, Arkwright originally trained and worked as a barber. He was able to dye hair and make wigs for changing the leg. When wigs became less popular, he started to work in textiles. He improved the original carding machine. Carding is the process of preparing fibers for spinning into yarn and fabric. And we're doing just a closing exercise. Breathing in. And out. Again in. Out. Again in. Out. Again in. Out. Closing the legs. And out. We're done with the morning stretching. I thank you very much, and until next time.